What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is the beginning of a new series here on the channel that I am calling a Macro Monday. I know it's incredibly creative and super original, except for that it's not. No, there's a lot of beer tubing channels that do Macro Monday, and I couldn't think of anything better, so here we are. Now, how this is going to work is once or twice per month, I am going to review a beer on a Monday that is from some of your bigger macro breweries, and most of them are going to be macro lagers. I'm going to try to post them probably every 3 weeks or so, somewhere in that range, and I want your help. So if you would love to see a specific review of a macro beer here on the channel, post in the comment section and let me know which beer that is. I'm going to compile a list and try to get to them as soon as I possibly can. But I wanted to introduce this series because I kind of want to drink some of the bigger beers in the world, if not here in the United States. And I just really don't have a lot of motivation to pick up a lot of these beers. There's so many craft beers being released on a daily basis that these get kind of pushed to the wayside. So I want something, some kind of series to have me focus on these beers. And I thought Macro Monday was a perfect way to do so. Now we're going to kick off the series with a beer from a brewery that is very entrenched here in the Buffalo, New York area, and that brewery is none other than the Labatt Brewing Company, and of course they are under the AB InBev umbrella, and they are headquartered in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and this is their Labatt Blue. So they're calling this one a Canadian Pilsener. It is also known as an American Adjunct Lager. It comes in at 4.7% alcohol by volume, 12 IBUs, and at the time of review, this big old 24 fluid ounce can is approximately 3 months old. So Labatt is deeply rooted here in the Buffalo, New York area. You could probably say the West New York area. Everywhere you go, you see ads for them. Their U.S. headquarters, Labatt USA, is in downtown Buffalo. They also have the Labatt Brew House, which is right next door to the KeyBank Center, which is the official home of the National Hockey League's Buffalo Sabres, which you also see their logo on this can. And if you're in this area, you've probably had Labatt Blue or Labatt Blue Light before, and I've had this beer many, many times. I've lost count. The last time I had this one was, I believe, Thanksgiving of this past year, and I don't dislike this beer as far as like a macro lager goes, but I also don't really like it. It's kind of just, it is what it is. But to be fair, I've never sat down and reviewed a beer, or reviewed this beer specifically. I always drink it with like food or hanging out with buddies or whatever. So it's not like a beer that I just, sit here and kind of contemplate, because most of these macro lagers are not for that. But I want to review it, and we're going to review it. So I'm going to crack this one open, pour it into the Genesee Cream Ale. If we're talking about a bigger, macro beer or macro, it's not a lager, it's a cream ale. But, that low ABV crushable beer, Genesee Cream Ale is my go-to. I've already reviewed it on the channel. So we're going to give it a pour into this pint glass. You guys know, if you watch the channel, I don't use pint glasses like this, but I thought Macro Monday, yeah, we're using pint glass. So this might have some hashtag dirty glass mafia going on. I don't really know. We'll see. But, look at that pour. The one thing I hate about these big, huge cans, you know what? Let me grab off camera. I have some paper towels. Let me just grab these paper towels. It's just, I hate these big cans because if you just saw what I did with the pour there, terrible pour, right? Absolutely horrendous. Now, honestly, if I'm picking up a can like this, what I'm doing with this is I'm drinking it straight from the can. So I'm not even pouring it into a glass. But for reviewing purposes, we got to pour it into the glass. So I guess it's not too bad with the dirty glass mafia going on. So we'll just put this off camera over here. So how does this look? Oh, it looks like one of your American Adjunct Lagers. It's a straw golden color. This has the little etching at the bottom, promote carbonation. You probably can see that. Has just under a finger of a fluffy, kind of soap sudsy, bright white head. Hold it up to the glass. You can see right through it. Yeah, I mean, it looks beautiful. You couldn't tell that's not Genny Cream Ale in this glass. Anyway, let's get into this. Yeah, so it smells like so many other macro lagers. It has, I think they use corn syrup. There's definitely some kind of corn product in here. They use real barley. I'm pretty sure real hops, maybe in hop extract. But I thought they said Canadian barley and hops. But yeah, it has that corny, grainy kind of scent to it. It's a little bit of like a fruity yeast ester, like a red apple or red apple core, like a pear. Maybe a slight earthiness to it. I mean, this is the best way to sum up the aroma of this is it smells like a beer. And we all know what a beer smells like. And that's what this smells like. So let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. First thing is, for me, this is very inoffensive. It doesn't have a ton of flavor, which is why I think I don't dislike this beer. There's a lot of macro lagers that have a distinct flavor that I'm just not keen to, right? This beer, it's really clean on the palate. There's not a ton going on flavor-wise, and that's why I think it pairs well with food, and you can just kind of drink a lot and really not think about it. Body, this is like lower side of medium body, almost approaching medium body for 4.7%. Also, I forgot to mention at the beginning of this, in the US here, this is 4.7%. In Canada, it's 5%. So if anybody knows what the difference is or why there's a 0.3% difference, let me know. I have no idea. They import it. They say on the can this is imported. It's not brewed here. So I wonder why they specifically brew this to 4.7% for the US. I don't know if that's the same case, like just outside of Canada it's 4.7% and only in Canada it's 5%. But I was curious about that. So if anybody knows, please post it in the comment section and let me know because I'm kind of confused. Anyway. Yeah, the body's a little bit bigger, which is nice if you don't want to drink something super watery, like a lot of the, light beers, like even Labatt Blue Light, Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Light, a lot of them are very thin bodied, almost watery. This has I want to say substantial body, but it's nice enough. This is very crisp, clean, super refreshing on the palate. The mouthfeel is what it is. They nail it for what the style should be. And the flavor, right up front, I get hit with like this sweet corn kind of flavor, and then there's a little bit of malt. There's a little bit of this grainy, almost slightly bready kind of malt sensation. It's more corn than bread as far as like the actual flavors are concerned. As it passes through, that red apple core, slight pear tinge hits midway through the palate. And on the finish, this finishes with a very slight, like earthy hoppiness. I'm talking very minute. This is mildly bitter. This has a nice dry, I'd say semi to full-on dry finish. For some reason, when I like drink this with food or like hang out, I feel like it's a little bit sweeter, but it's not as sweet here as I'm drinking it and reviewing it. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, super inoffensive to my palate. And sitting in this kind of situation, right, in this atmosphere, reviewing this on YouTube, a Labatt Blue, you start to try to pick apart the beer and what you're tasting. And all I can say is that it's inoffensive. It's not bad tasting. It goes down really easy, and you could crush a ton of these. I really could. I don't anymore, and I can't anymore, but I could easily drink a couple cans of these big 24-ounce or even like a 6-pack, and it won't weigh down your palate. That's what these beers are meant for. So, yeah, I mean, it's a simplistic, easy, a macro lager. 4.7%, you can't tell. I mean, what else is there to say? I guess I just rate it at this point. There's nothing else to say about this beer, so we're just going to give it a rating. But here's the thing. With Macro Monday, I'm going to do 2 ratings. Number 1, the first rating will be on a macro. If it's a lager, it's going to be on a macro lager scale. And the second one would be an overall beer scale. So I think as far as like a macro lager, and I've never like rated this like on Untapped or Beer Advocate or anything. They don't have stylistic ratings. I typically would always give this like a 2.5 out of 5, something like that overall. But I'm gonna say this beer specifically. Let's make sure I'm making it even here with the camera. I think macro lager wise, I think this is like a high 3.5. I go 3.6 for a macro lager. Like you could do much worse than this beer. And I have done much worse than this beer. So I think 3.6 out of 5 for a macro lager is the appropriate rating for this one. But for an actual beer overall, I think I'm going to give this higher than I did in the past. I don't know. This is just hitting me a little bit differently. Like I said, very inoffensive, super clean. It's refreshing. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 overall as a beer. So overall as a beer, 3 out of 5. As a macro lager, 3.6 out of 5. I think that's fair for my palate. Of course, there's going to be a lot of folks that come to this review and this is your favorite beer. And you'd be like, well, a 3.6, that's a 5 out of 5. And then other people are like, that's disgusting. I don't ever want to taste that beer again. And that's the beauty about macro lagers and macro beers in general. We all have different tastes, so we all have our favorites and our least favorite. And you're going to see that over the course of this series where there are a couple macro beers that I know a lot of people out there like that I cannot stand to any degree, and the review on this channel will be the last time I hopefully taste those beers. Anyway, price point availability is Labatt Blue. You can pretty much get it everywhere, especially if you're here in North America. You can get it in Canada and the US very easily. Price point, I paid $2 for this huge 24 fluid ounce can. I want to say like 12 packs are like $12, 18 packs, $18, and I think 24 packs are like around $30. It's a little bit more expensive because it technically is imported, even though it's our neighbors to the north this beer comes from. And is it worth paying more for this than say like a Coors Banquet or maybe a Miller High Life? No, not to me. But if you're here in Buffalo, like I said, I understand why so many people drink this. The ease of access, it's so readily available here in Buffalo, and it's not bad. Now, Labatt Blue Light, I remember not liking that. So when I review that, we'll be curious to see how they compare. And there's a lot of other Labatt Blue products, but I don't know how many get distro here in the US. So anyway, there's not much more to say about this one other than I think this is a solid macro lager and you could do much worse. So if you've had this one before, and I know a lot of you have, post in the comment section. Do you love this one? Do you hate it? Do you feel like me where it's got somewhere in between? Yeah, that's all I have. So this was the first Macro Monday. We started off with Labatt Blue because, again, they are deeply rooted here in Buffalo at this point. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'm glad I started with this beer, and we'll see what we do next. Again, I'm going to compile a list, so post in the comment section if you want to see me review a specific macro beer. I will definitely throw it on the list and get to them as soon as I possibly can. So appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol and another Macro Monday. Check back in a couple weeks for another installment, and hopefully that beer is at least as good as this. Definitely not worse, because I'm not looking forward to that. Anyway, to the next one. Cheers.